Hello, everybody. I am Kyana Brathwaite, and I will be talking today about mental health as a founder. I think I have sharing capabilities. Yes, I do. So I can bring up my presentation. Here we go. All right. So, as I said, I am a founder myself. The name of my company is KB Calls. Wanted to just start off with the reason why I'm speaking on this topic is it's very near and dear to me in several different ways. Being a founder, the fact that I am a healthcare educator and planner, registered nurse. One thing I noticed that as I was a founder, my mental health became, I think probably it was as important as it was when I was an employee, but it was something that I really had to intentionally focus on. So as a founder, I wear a multitude of hats on a daily basis. I'm a mom, I am a founder, I wear 15 different hats within my business. I'm also a daughter, a wife, and a whole plethora of things. And so as I'm juggling all of these things, I have to really intentionally keep this in mind. Now, a little quick housekeeping. I will do my best to keep an eye on the chat. If you're in and you're chatting, I do have help. Emily will be helping me out with that. So let's hop right on in. All right, so the intentions that I have for this talk really are hoping that I plant a seed in just keeping mental health at the forefront. But along with that, I'd like you to understand kind of where you are. And that's one of those ways that you can keep that at the forefront of your mind. Know when to ask for help and to say no. I'll touch on this a little bit later. I'll be sharing some insights and experiences, and these are just examples. So I want you to use them as a guide. What I have a tendency of doing as a founder is I take in information and I'm like, okay, this piece of that fits here. So I'm going to put these things together. So that's what I really want you to be able to do, is just have a template and an idea. And then creating a support at each stage. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but as you go through your founder journey, you'll notice that the stage where you started looks nothing like where you are 5 to 6 years later, or even 6 months later. So definitely we'll chat about that a little bit later. I like to start off just where we are with like definitions. And I thought this was really cute because this is like, to me, when my mental health is at its peak and at its top, I'm flying, I'm in the world, I'm in my music, life is good. I'm making sure that I'm paying attention, I'm balanced, all of those good things. So quick definition is a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. I'd actually like to go in a little deeper and say that for me, I know that there are different aspects of health. There's actually 12 that I pay attention to. But within those aspects, right, part of my mental health is making sure that I'm paying attention to all of those other aspects of my health, whether it be physical, environmental. I think that's something that we really need to pay attention to, what our environment is. And then there's all other aspects, but really the psychological and emotional piece is what we're speaking on and focusing on today. Keeping in mind that we are a whole person and there are other pieces to that puzzle, being us. There we go. All right, next, grace. So this is one thing that I like to share, talk about, reiterate. I don't think we give ourselves enough. So one thing I like about this image is it just reminds me to come as I am, right? So just to be who I am, be okay with that. And then the definitions that we're kind of working from as we're talking today are exercise and love kindness or goodwill, the disposition to benefit or serve another, and the capacity, love that word capacity, to tolerate, accommodate, or forgive. And we need to show these things outwardly as much as inwardly. I think if we show it to ourselves, we can also then show it to other people or provide it for other people. And I'm always a proponent of grace and space. If anybody knows me, I say that all the time. Now, stress. Ooh, this is a biggie for a founder. This is a biggie for just living life, adulting, right? Stress is something that we're going to encounter. And I love this because that's me. As soon as something goes wrong, it's like, oh my gosh. So this kid is like the epitome of me when I'm stressed. The definition that I'm using today and that we're going to lean into is the perception of a threat to our physical or psychological well-being, coupled with the belief that we do not have the resources to cope with it. This came through I'm going to share real quickly from Jefferson Health here has a MBSR. So, oof, I'm going to mess up the acronym. So it's pretty much a stress reduction program that Jefferson Health offers to people who are open. And I was introduced by my doctor, which is a whole nother story, but I'll share that a little bit later on. But I love this because it's the perception of, right? If we've gone through something before, we have the resources to get through that thing that we're going through now. And I have a girlfriend, Tracy, who's she's also a co-host of a podcast that we're on. And she says, you know, you're either coming into a storm, in a storm, or coming out of a storm. And as we're going through those three different stages, we have the resources available to us. We just need to know how to tap into them. We need to kind of check in with ourselves and say, oh, I'm in a stressful situation. Who can I call on? What do I need right now to help me with this? And do I need to get out of it, or do I need to do something different? All right, boundaries, big one here. I love this because if you're not setting boundaries, you are all over the place, right? You're saying yes, you're saying no, you're saying maybe, you're all over the place. So boundaries are a line that marks the limit of an area or a dividing line, and the limit of a subject or sphere of activity. So more so, setting a boundary is pretty much just saying, this is where the line ends, right? For instance, I'll take work hours. When I first started my business, I was working all day, every day. And I really had to set a boundary with myself and say, okay, I need to, because my brain is shutting down at 7, I'm still working until 9. All of that stuff that I'm doing between 7 and 9 is not productive. So what does this look like to set this boundary for myself? These are very important. As founders, we have to set boundaries. As people, as adults, we have to set boundaries. And then capacity. This is a big one. So you see this woman here, and this is kind of me on a daily basis, juggling 15 different things. Capacity is pretty much just the maximum amount that something can contain, right? So when we're talking capacity, you know, how many hours in a day do you have to devote to your business, to other aspects of your life? That's capacity, right? How much time per week do you want to spend in, on, and with your business? How much time per week do you want to spend in, on, and with your family? How much time are you putting aside for yourself? Right. So that's where capacity comes into play. And again, I'm just kind of sharing the definition, so we're all starting from the same place, and then we can move forward. And I think, yes. All right. So now we can hop into the nitty gritty, right? So when it comes to understanding where you are, I really want to talk about the process of learning yourself. So I remember when I didn't necessarily step into entrepreneurship and go, yes, I'm going to be a business owner. I was kicked out of the workforce by a situation and had to decide, what am I going to do with the skill set that I had in front of me? And I automatically thought, oh, I'm good, you know, not automatically. Through some time and sitting with myself, I actually came up with starting a business, and with the help of my husband. And it was really the beginning of me getting to know myself, because when I went to school and, you know, went to nursing school, I was pretty much told, this is what progress looks like, this is what success looks like. And I had to develop that for myself when I started my own business, which was really scary, because I realized that I had control, but at the same time, I had control. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the decision maker. So really just understanding where you are, like, you're the decision maker. Okay, what does that mean for you? What's your comfort level with that, right? And then, you know, the fact that because you're just getting started on this, or the journey is continuous or perpetual, but even in those different places, who you are at the beginning of your journey is going to be very different from who you are 6 months in, a year and a half in, 10 years in, right? So where you are and who you are at those different points, what mental health is going to look like for you is going to be very different. So at the beginning, I was very clear on understanding that, yes, I'm going to have to put in hours and build this thing from the ground up, and so forth and so on. And, but I've hit some roadblocks and a couple of barriers, and definitely some challenges that kind of were triggers. Oh, okay, this is happening. This isn't going the way that I thought it would go. Am I going down like this downward spiral, or, you know, what does that look like, and how do I support myself in that? So getting to know where you are in these different stages, and then recognizing that where you are is going to dictate what you need, as far as supporting yourself in your business and supporting yourself in making sure that you're mentally healthy. And I want to also kind of give you a little example. So I had an expectation, it was very unrealistic, I'll be very honest, that 2 years in, my business was going to replace my nursing income. um, that was funny. But when I had that expectation and did not meet that expectation, I found myself in this really dark place. And my husband was like, okay, something's going on. Maybe you need to talk to somebody. So it was him recognizing where I was. I was in a dark place, and he was like, okay, you need to get help. And by him saying that to me, it kind of jarred me a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really sitting in this place. There's these expectations. I'm not meeting them. I need to talk to somebody so they can help me through this process. Next, I wanted to talk to you about knowing when to ask for help. So as I said, with that situation, my husband pretty much was like, you need to get help, which I appreciate the fact that he checks me as he does, as we check each other. But it was great for him to have somebody outside paying attention to you and saying, hey, I'm not sure you're okay. How can I help you? Or are you okay? Kind of checking in. And one thing that I was not paying attention to during this time was my capacity, because while I was starting a business, I decided to put our children in cyber school. So we were traditional people in education, and we decided to try this whole new cyber thing that wasn't really new at the time, but it was new for us. And neither my husband and I had any experience with it. So I'm starting a business and I'm throwing my kids into a new educational environment. I did not know what my capacity was. I thought that I was Superwoman and I can, do fit these hard things all at once. And we got through, and it was, again, it was tough. It was challenging. It was extremely stressful. I was like that kid pulling his hair out. But I learned what my capacity was, right? So I learned that when it came to working in my business, I had to start setting schedules. I had to have some routines. I had to have things that supported me as far as remembering to eat, because that was something that I wasn't remembering to do, which definitely, if you're working hangry, is a negative effect on your mental health when you're walking around here not eating and really nurturing your body, right? So knowing when to ask for help, having somebody who's paying attention to you to kind of help be that sounding board, and then knowing what your capacity is, really sitting down and saying, what are the balls that I have up in the air? Who can I, delegate to if I need to? What are some of the balls that I can drop? There's this wonderful author, and her name is the name of the book is Drop the Ball. And I cannot remember her name right now, unfortunately, but the name of the book is Drop the Ball. And just reading the title, I was like, oh my gosh, it's okay to drop a ball. Like I can, let some of these things go and then pick them back up. Or, oh, this one bounces. Oh, great. It's not glass. It won't break. So that's really just, knowing that and paying attention to that and being able to say, I have to drop this ball, and not beating yourself up when you drop those balls, because it's okay. We're human, and you're learning. You're trying to, every day is a learning experience, and nothing is the same. So you just have to give yourself that grace. Now, this is something that I learned in my meditation classes. It's a practice, right? Life pretty much is a practice. Anything that you're newly implementing, it's practice. And if you look at it as this is practice, as opposed to, I know for me, I'm in my 40s. And for some odd reason, I think that even if I encounter something new that I'm just learning, I should be able to master it right away, because I've mastered all these other things up until this point, not really looking at it as I'm learning, I'm practicing, I'm getting to know and understand, and I'm not going to always get it right, right? So some examples of this as a practice for me, and I thought these two women were great examples this year, are Simone Biles and Osaka, who really took what they were going through and said, how do I, and I'm on the outside looking in, I don't know these women, but from my perspective, just having them say, I'm not in a good place and I need to take a pause. right? I need to just pull back, and I know I'm under a lot of pressure. And how do I release myself from some of this overwhelm is really what I got from both of them, saying I need to take time out to really support myself in my mental health process. Both, I think Simone had some health issues along with what was going on. And I think that health issues can be like the canary in the mine, in the sense of sometimes when we're going through something that manifests physically, if we're not paying attention to what's going on with ourselves mentally and emotionally, right? And then Osaka saying, I'm willing to take the fine. I'm not in a place to have, meetings and conversations. I really need to pull back. That's really important. And it's not something that we see done often. And it's not something that can be supported as you're a founder, because you're expected to go, build. It's this perpetual push through, grind thing. And sometimes you can grind yourself down to a nub and really need to take some time out and recuperate and rejuvenate. So I think that if you keep in mind that it's a practice, right, that yes, sometimes it's going to be right there and you're going to remember it and you're going to pay attention. And other times it's going to kind of fall by the wayside and you're going to have to pick it back up. And that's okay. You're practicing, you're learning, and it's an ongoing practice, just like with anything else that you implement. Now, creating a way to support yourself. I have found that when I'm very clear on the expectations that are being placed upon me, right? Whose expectations those are, where are they coming from? Do they belong to me? Are they realistic? Are you dealing with the expectations of, funders? Are you dealing with expectations of family? Are you dealing with all kinds of different expectations can be placed upon you? So when you're supporting yourself through this practice and this process, one of the things that have been helpful for me is just really sitting down and going, when I create a revenue goal, is this revenue goal my revenue goal? Where is this revenue goal coming from? Is this realistic based upon what's going on? And by sitting and analyzing and assessing that, I can say, okay, this revenue goal is huge. It's not realistic, but I'm going to reach for it anyway. But I'm very clear on that, right? So as I'm moving through it, it's not, if I don't make that goal, I'm not beating myself up and I'm not going down that downward spiral. If I'm sharing with people, this is my revenue goal, and I'm saying, I know this is huge, or, I'm not sure how I'm going to get here, but having those people that you can kind of talk through and talk with it, and then recognize, hey, I noticed that you set that goal for yourself, and you're kind of close to that date. How are you, how are you doing with that? Do you need any help with that? Do you want to bounce something off of me, to kind of talk through that? So really creating that support network, and then also having those tools in place to be able to recognize those expectations. Are they clear? Are they realistic? And then how do you plan to meet those expectations, right? So that's the other thing, is really giving yourself time to sit down and think through what these are and how you get there. And then having those people who you can share, who can mentor you, who can pull you up or sit you down or just tell you to pause, like my husband did when he was saying, I think you need to have a conversation with somebody. And then, I'll kind of start to round this up a little bit. The way that I can help, because I like to be clear in expectations and sharing how I can be a resource. So definitely supporting founders in understanding their journey and where they are in that journey. And then talking to you about how far you've come. It's very interesting. I've taken some time to sit down and create like a timeline. I started my company in 2016. I did like a really in-depth timeline when I sat down and looked at where I was at this point and how much work I had done, right? How far I had come, how much I learned over that 4.5-year period. And it was amazing to me to be able to sit down and do that. So I want to be able to support people and be that sounding board for you, right? Another thing is understanding your capacity. So there's ways that we can, sit down and just talk about I've done this with a couple of friends who are also business owners. Like, what does your schedule look like? How do you create that template that's going to, support you in all of the things that you want to do, are responsible for, and are obligated to do? How do you, balance all of that? And then, of course, being able to navigate the healthcare system. If you're at a point where you need mental health help, right, or you're suffering from mental illness, you have to interact with, I like to say, the healthcare system, and that isn't always fun. It's not always easy, and it's not necessarily something that you have to do on your own. And then definitely, I can always assist with finding a provider. I have done this for myself. I've done this for family members, and I've also done it for clients, and looking for mental health providers. And there's a barrier there. It's an unfortunate situation, especially if you're really having a tough time and you're asking for help. It's not the easiest process to go through. So that's something that I can, help and support you with as well. And key takeaways. So I have to move my little thingy did something really weird. So bear with me. Here we go. All right. Key takeaways. Keep your mental health at the forefront. Keep in mind, this is a practice, right? So it's going to fall away. It's going to be in front of you. If you have that, friend, life partner that's kind of checking on you, and even, my kids have been great with saying, "Mommy, you don't seem like you're okay." And that was really interesting to have my kids tell me that I didn't seem like I was okay. I had to be like, "Oh, wow, okay, I'm giving off something." And we are very supportive of each other's mental health in my household. So the fact that they recognize that was like, all right, I need to, what do I need to do to help to get myself to a place where I'm in a better place, right? And what does that look like? Like, because when they've checked in with me, I'm going, okay, well, what do what does that mean for you when I seem like I'm not okay? And they've said things like, you just seem really grumpy or angry, or, are you getting enough rest? So even having my kids, say that's what they're noticing and that's what they're observing has been phenomenal. And then you're learning what works and what doesn't work. Again, I realized when I became a founder that I'm in control. I'm making the decisions. And whereas I was an employee and somebody had this whole foundation set up for me and all I had to do was go in and do my job, now I have to create the foundation, have the foundation in place every single day, and then also continue to do my work. So as you're doing all of that with the other plethora of things that you have going on in life, you're learning what works and what doesn't work, and and it's okay to say, well, this routine, I have several AM routines actually, because depending on where I am, and Emily and I were kind of talking about moods for jackets, I'm kind of like that when it comes to my routine. What mood am I in, right? Am I in a, hermit mood where I need to just have my cup of coffee and go out on the porch and just stare, at nature? Is that going to support me? Am I in a, oh, I need to, move my energy. Let me do some yoga or Pilates or even stretches, because today I don't really have it in me to do yoga, because yoga requires way too much thought for me to breathe properly. So maybe I just need to stretch today, So I have these different routines in place, and then I get to pick and choose one depending on the mood and the energy and how I'm feeling. But I had to learn that, right? I had to learn that this one routine that Gary V has does not work for me. I have to do something else and maybe pull from Gary V and a couple of other people and then put that together. And then this is fluid, right? Give yourself grace to make adjustments and let some things go, right? Whatever's necessary in the moment. If it's focusing on, paying attention to, I need to make sure that I'm in a good mental space, emotionally, I'm really not relating to things in a way that I want to relate to things. And, I don't feel at my best. Maybe I'm not getting enough sleep. And so and that really does throw off and affect your mental health. So maybe I need to do some things to support myself at night to create a nighttime routine. But then other times, I'm rip roaring and running. So as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm out like a light. I don't even have to think twice about it. So, give yourself that space to say, this is where I am, going back to understanding where you are. This is what I need, going back to creating those things that are going to support you and paying attention to that. And then this is how I implement those. And then also when you're implementing something new, recognizing that it's going to take you time for it to really become a part of who you are. I had to take classes to learn how to meditate, which I thought was hilarious. But then once my integrated doc was like, you're a type A personality, you're in control, go to this class. And I started meditating with people. I found that I don't have to do it every day, but, or I do it every day, but it looks different for me in certain days. Right. So just having that and recognizing that, oh, I had to take a class to learn how to sit with myself, that, that I wouldn't have been open to that had I not been on this journey of getting to know who I am and what I need. And I don't think I would have been open to my doctor telling me I need to take a class for that, because I would have thought that was ridiculous. So it's just, helpful to be open to and recognizing that this is fluid and that you're going to change and you're going to need to be supported in those changes. And I think, one more slide. And this is how you stay in contact with me. I'm on Instagram. I am all over the place, but mostly Instagram, LinkedIn, and then you can always drop something through my email through my website here. So I see that there is something in the chat. I'm going to take a quick look. Yes, Tracy, it is very enlightening when your kids give you feedback. It took me aback though, because I thought I was, in a good place. And then some of the things that my kids recognized and were speaking on, I was like, oh, okay, wow. All right, you guys are paying attention. You're actually listening to me. Remember, you're setting a precedent. But yeah, it was definitely enlightening. And I'm glad that we had a relationship where they felt that they could be honest with me and say, you don't look like you're okay, or, is everything okay? Because I do it with them. So if there are any questions, I would love to answer them.
Well, so I have a question. It's kind of related to that. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about kind of cultivating your network so that it supports your mental health, like how to do that so that you're surrounding yourself with people who will do that for you, and how to kind of create that.
Okay, that's yourself. A great question. Yes. So before I could do that, I had to really get clear on, this may sound weird, who I was, right? So in corporate world, I was very different from who I was as a founder. Or maybe not even that. Maybe I was who I was as an employee, but that I never had the opportunity to let some of these parts of me shine through. So when I finally was like, okay, who am I? What do I want to let shine through? What have I been hiding? Once I got clear on that, then I was like, okay, I'm ready to start networking. And I actually found, Emily, that my clarity of who I was and what I was looking for and what I needed allowed me to attract that support group that really has my back in this place where I am. But it took some time to get clear on that, because I think prior to being clear on who I was still trying on different roles or different personalities. And those kinds of people were being attracted to me. And I was wondering why we were having the conversations that we were having, or I was feeling the way that I was feeling, and couldn't be open and honest the way that I needed to be. And then probably around 2018, 2019, 2018, 2019, I was like, this isn't working. I need people who are going to support me. And, I really need to be able to be myself and be open and honest. And that was when I started to meet, the friends that I have now. I started to be really honest with, more so honest with myself, and then honest with my husband about, some of the things that were going on, and being able to talk to him about it also helped me to attract the people, because I was willing to have those conversations, right? Like I was willing to be vulnerable. And then the world just opened up, and now I'm just like this one big cry pouty person when things get hard, you're like, oh my God, it's so hard. And I'm like, I know, what are you doing about it? I'm just gonna sit here and cry now, and then I'll get up and do something else, but they gave me space to cry. And by them giving me permission to cry, I was able to give that to myself. And I don't cry as much. I cry when I really need to, but when I do cry, I'm not judged. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. I really like that. If you need to cry, just doing it. I know my mom always says, like, sometimes you just have to feel this way until you don't feel this way anymore.
Yes.
But also surrounding yourself with people that will allow you to do that.
Yes.
So that is very true.
Yes. Your mom brings up a really good point about sitting. That was the other thing that I had to learn to do, was sit in my feelings and not resist what was going on, because they were an indicator of something, right? They were telling me something and I just needed to pay attention. And when I started to pay attention to them, also along that clarity line, that's when it didn't feel as bad, right? I mean, it felt bad, but it wasn't like resistance feeling bad. It was more like, oh, okay, this is deep, this is heavy, I'm gonna sit with it, and now I can figure out what I need to do to move forward. So your mom is a very wise woman. It took me many years to learn that.